Close your eyes and imagine a world wrapped in water. 4 billion years ago, there was no land to stand on, no forests to walk through, no mountains to climb. Just endless ocean, warm and still, covering nearly every inch of our planet. And in that quiet darkness, something extraordinary began. Deep beneath the waves, near thermal vents on the ocean floor where heated water bubbled up from Earth's core, the first living cells emerged. These weren't plants or animals as we know them. They were simple, single-celled organisms, so tiny that millions could fit on the head of a pin. But they had something miraculous: they were alive. For nearly 3 billion years, 3 billion years of patient, unhurried time, life existed only in this simple form, drifting peacefully through the oceans, in no rush whatsoever to become anything more complex. Then, about 2.4 billion years ago, some of these tiny organisms discovered something that would change everything. They learned to capture sunlight. These were the first photosynthetic bacteria, and they had an almost magical ability. They could take the sun's gentle rays and transform them into energy, releasing oxygen as a gift to the world. Slowly, breath by breath, over hundreds of millions of years, they filled the oceans and eventually the atmosphere with oxygen, creating the very air that would one day fill your lungs as you sleep peacefully tonight. And here's something wonderful to rest your mind on: those ancient organisms, the cyanobacteria, still exist today. You can find their descendants in ponds, in oceans, even in the soil. They've been doing the same gentle work for billions of years, quietly photosynthesizing, asking nothing in return, simply being. Life, you see, doesn't always need to rush forward or evolve into something new to be successful. Sometimes, the oldest way is perfect just as it is. For another billion years after oxygen filled the skies, life remained mostly single-celled, taking its time, existing in the vast, patient rhythm of the ocean. There was no competition, no hurry. Just existence, pure and simple. And then, about 600 million years ago, something soft and beautiful appeared in the seas, the first multicellular animals. They had no bones, no shells, no hard parts at all. They were gentle, quilted creatures that looked almost like underwater ferns, swaying with the currents. Scientists call this period the Ediacaran, and these mysterious, peaceful organisms left their impressions in ancient seafloor mud, like the world's oldest, softest fossils. Let that image settle in your mind as you rest: a quiet ocean, lit by filtered sunlight, where the first complex life simply floated. No predators yet. No fear. Just existence in its most serene form, creatures moving with the water, part of the rhythm of the tides, part of the gentle breathing of the earth itself. Life has always known how to rest. Life has always taken its time. And you can too. As the earth continued its slow dance around the sun, something remarkable began to happen in those ancient seas. About 541 million years ago, life decided it was time to experiment, to try new forms, new shapes, new ways of being. Scientists call this the Cambrian explosion, but don't let the word explosion fool you. It unfolded over millions of years, in the unhurried way that nature prefers. During this time, creatures began to grow shells and exoskeletons, protective homes they could carry with them wherever they wandered. Trilobites scuttled across the ocean floor, their segmented bodies moving in gentle rhythms. There were creatures with 5 eyes, creatures that looked like flowers, creatures that defied any category we have today. And all of them, every single one, lived underwater, cradled by the ocean's embrace. Here's something soothing to consider. For the first 4 billion years of life on Earth, nothing lived on land at all. The continents were barren rock, silent and still, waiting. There was no rush. The ocean was home, and home was enough. Then, around 470 million years ago, the first pioneers ventured onto the shores. They weren't animals, they were plants. Tiny, moss-like plants that hugged the wet rocks near the water's edge, not quite ready to leave the ocean behind entirely. These early plants had no roots, no flowers, no leaves as we know them. They simply existed in that in-between place, where water met land, where the old world met the new. And for millions of years, they spread slowly, patiently, turning the barren stone green, one small patch at a time. Imagine that world, empty continents gradually being painted green by the slowest, gentlest brush. No animals yet to disturb the silence. Just plants, growing in the warmth of the sun, releasing oxygen with every breath, making the air richer, sweeter, more ready for what was to come. By 385 million years ago, those simple plants had become forests. The first trees rose toward the sky, tall, primitive trees called Archaeopteris, with fern-like leaves that rustled in the ancient wind. And beneath their canopy, the soil deepened. Before plants, there was no true soil, just crushed rock and minerals. But plants changed that. Their roots broke down stone, their fallen leaves decomposed, and slowly, over millions of years, they created the rich earth that now covers our world. Every handful of soil in your garden, every patch of ground you've ever walked on, exists because plants spent hundreds of millions of years gently, patiently preparing it. The forests grew thick and quiet. And then, finally, the first animals emerged from the water to explore this new green world. They were arthropods, distant relatives of spiders and insects, small creatures with jointed legs who crawled cautiously onto the land. The first vertebrates to follow were fish that had learned to breathe air, pulling themselves onto mudflats with their strong fins. These were the ancestors of every land animal alive today, including you. They moved slowly, adapting gradually, spending millions of years in the shallow waters before fully committing to land. There was no hurry. Evolution has never been in a rush. And here's a thought to carry you deeper into rest. Those first adventurers onto land didn't have a plan. They weren't trying to conquer or achieve. They were simply following what felt right, moving toward warmth, toward food, toward the next gentle breath. Life has always moved forward by simply being. By existing. By taking one small step, and then resting, and then perhaps, when ready, taking another. The earth was learning to be a home, and life was learning to live in it, slowly, softly, one quiet moment at a time. As millions of years drifted by like clouds across an endless sky, the forests grew taller and the air grew thick with moisture. About 360 million years ago, during a period called the Carboniferous, the world became a greenhouse of green. Giant ferns towered overhead, some reaching heights of 30 feet or more. Club mosses grew as tall as trees, their trunks covered in diamond-patterned bark. And dragonflies, oh, the dragonflies, glided through the humid air with wingspans stretching nearly 2.5 feet wide, the largest insects that have ever lived. They moved lazily through the dappled sunlight, their iridescent wings catching the light as they hunted smaller insects in the warm, oxygen-rich atmosphere. The air in those ancient forests contained more oxygen than it does today, nearly 35% compared to our current 21%. This abundance of oxygen allowed insects to grow to sizes we can barely imagine now. But it also meant something else, something wonderfully peaceful. The world was breathing deeply. Those vast forests were inhaling carbon dioxide and exhaling oxygen with every moment of every day, filling the atmosphere with the breath of life itself. And when those giant plants died, they fell into swamps where they were slowly buried and compressed, layer upon layer, eventually becoming the coal we find deep in the earth today. Those ancient forests are still with us, transformed, resting in the darkness below, holding the sunlight they captured hundreds of millions of years ago. In these thick, steamy forests, the first reptiles appeared. They evolved from amphibians who had grown tired of returning to the water to lay their eggs. Instead, reptiles developed eggs with hard shells that could be laid on land, keeping the precious developing life safe and moist inside. This was a quiet revolution. No longer were animals tethered to ponds and streams. They could wander deeper into the forests, farther into the unexplored world, carrying the water of their origins within them, protected. One of the most wonderful things about this time is how slowly it all unfolded. For 60 million years, 60 million years of patient, unhurried time, these forests stood, these creatures evolved, and the world simply was. There was no destination, no finish line. Just existence, rich and full, in the warm embrace of an ancient earth. Then, around 299 million years ago, the climate began to shift. The world grew drier and cooler. The vast swamp forests gradually receded, replaced by new kinds of plants, conifers, the ancestors of today's pines and firs, with their needle-like leaves designed to conserve water. These trees were pioneers of a different kind, adapted to harsher conditions, able to thrive where the giant ferns could not. But they carried forward the same patient work, capturing sunlight, releasing oxygen, creating shelter, asking nothing in return. And the reptiles? They flourished in this new world. Some grew larger, developing new ways of moving, new ways of eating. By 252 million years ago, creatures called therapsids roamed the land, reptiles that were beginning to show mammal-like characteristics, with different kinds of teeth for different purposes, and legs that tucked underneath their bodies rather than sprawling out to the sides. They moved with a new kind of efficiency, a new kind of grace. They were the ancestors of all mammals, including the warm-blooded creatures that would one day include us. But before that story could unfold, the Earth had to endure something devastating. At the end of the Permian period, 252 million years ago, the largest mass extinction in Earth's history occurred. Volcanic eruptions on a scale almost impossible to imagine released enormous amounts of carbon dioxide and toxic gases. The oceans became acidic and depleted of oxygen. 90% of all species in the ocean disappeared. 70% of land species vanished. It was the closest life has ever come to ending completely. And yet, life persisted. In the quiet spaces, in the hidden corners, small populations survived. And from those survivors, slowly, gently, over millions of years, life rebuilt itself. The earth healed. New species emerged. The story continued, as it always has, as it always will, with patience and resilience woven into the very fabric of existence. Rest in that knowledge, Life knows how to endure, how to recover, how to begin again. In the quiet aftermath of that great extinction, the world began again. And from the survivors emerged an age that would capture imaginations for all time, the age of dinosaurs. Around 230 million years ago, the first dinosaurs appeared, small and unassuming, walking on two legs through forests of conifers and ferns. They weren't the giants we often picture. These early dinosaurs were no larger than a dog, quick and cautious, sharing the world with many other reptiles who seemed, at the time, far more likely to dominate. But the dinosaurs had time. They had patience. And slowly, over tens of millions of years, they diversified into every imaginable form. Some remained small and fleet-footed. Others grew to sizes that still seem impossible, the long-necked sauropods, gentle giants who spent their days peacefully browsing on treetops, their enormous bodies moving in slow, deliberate rhythms across ancient floodplains. A single brachiosaurus could weigh as much as 80 tons, yet they were herbivores, creatures of peace who harmed no one, who simply ate and walked and existed under the warm Mesozoic sun. Here's something beautiful to rest your mind on. Many of these giant dinosaurs lived in herds, moving together across vast distances in search of food. Fossilized trackways show us their footprints, preserved in ancient mud, dozens of individuals walking side by side, the smaller juveniles protected in the center, the adults forming a living shield around them. They cared for one another. They moved as a community, in the gentle rhythm of migration that animals still follow today. And the world they moved through was transforming in the most wonderful way. Around 140 million years ago, the first flowering plants appeared. Before this, the world had been green and brown, ferns, conifers, cycads, beautiful but without the bright colors of petals. Then came the flowers, opening their blooms to the sun, painting the landscape with purples and yellows and whites. With them came a new kind of partnership. Flowering plants and insects began to evolve together, each shaping the other. Bees appeared, butterflies danced through the air, and the world became not just alive but vibrant, filled with color and sweetness and the gentle hum of pollinators going about their patient work. The dinosaurs lived through this flowering world for millions of years, some of them likely seeing colors we can only imagine. Recent research suggests that many dinosaurs may have had excellent color vision, perhaps even better than our own, able to see into the ultraviolet spectrum. Imagine a triceratops pausing in a meadow of flowers, seeing patterns and hues invisible to human eyes, experiencing beauty in ways we never could. And in the trees above, small furry creatures watched and waited. These were the early mammals, descendants of those mammal-like reptiles from before the extinction. During the age of dinosaurs, mammals remained small, most no larger than a mouse or rat, active primarily at night when the great reptiles slept. They developed warm blood, fur to keep them insulated, and the ability to nurse their young with milk, adaptations that would one day prove invaluable. But for now, for 165 million years, they lived quietly in the margins, not competing with dinosaurs but coexisting, finding their own niches, their own ways to survive. There's something almost meditative about this. For 165 million years, dinosaurs walked the earth. That's more than 800 times longer than humans have existed. Empires of stone and scale rose and fell, species evolved and vanished, continents drifted apart, and through it all, life continued in its patient, unhurried way. There was no need to rush toward what came next. The present was enough, each moment complete in itself. The climate during much of the dinosaur age was warmer than today, with no ice at the poles. Palm trees grew in what is now Alaska. The seas were higher, covering much of the land we now call home. And in those warm, shallow seas, creatures of breathtaking beauty evolved, ammonites with their spiral shells, marine reptiles like the gentle plesiosaurs gliding through the water with their long necks and flippers, and the first sea turtles, who have remained almost unchanged for 110 million years, still swimming our oceans today, carrying ancient wisdom in their slow, steady movements. Let yourself drift with that image, a warm sea, endless and blue, where creatures move without urgency through shafts of sunlight, where time itself seems to slow down, where everything simply is. For all their majesty, the reign of the dinosaurs came to an end. 66 million years ago, a rock from space, an asteroid 6 miles wide, struck the Earth near what is now Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. The impact released energy a billion times more powerful than the atomic bombs of the 20th century. Dust and debris filled the atmosphere, blocking out the sun for months, perhaps years. The world grew cold and dark. Plants withered without sunlight. Herbivores starved. The carnivores that depended on them followed. 3/4 of all species on Earth, including all the non-avian dinosaurs, disappeared. But even in this moment of devastation, there is something quietly hopeful to consider. The dinosaurs didn't entirely vanish. Before the asteroid struck, some small feathered dinosaurs had already taken to the air. These were the early birds, descendants of swift, meat-eating dinosaurs who had grown lighter, developed wings, and learned to fly. When the asteroid hit and the world went dark, these small, adaptable creatures survived. Today, there are more than 10,000 species of birds, from tiny hummingbirds to soaring albatrosses, and every single one of them is a living dinosaur, carrying forward an unbroken line that stretches back more than 150 million years. When you hear a robin singing at dawn, you're hearing the voice of the Mesozoic, still alive, still here. In the aftermath of the extinction, the world fell silent for a time. But silence, in nature, never lasts forever. The small mammals who had lived quietly in the shadows for so long emerged into a world suddenly full of possibility. Without the great reptiles to compete with, mammals began to diversify in extraordinary ways. Some took to the trees, developing grasping hands and forward-facing eyes. These would become our primate ancestors. Others returned to the water, their bodies reshaping over millions of years into sleek, swimming forms, the ancestors of whales and dolphins, who still carry tiny remnant hip bones hidden inside their bodies, reminders of the land-dwelling creatures they once were. By 50 million years ago, the world looked more familiar. Forests of oak and maple spread across the continents. Grasses had begun to evolve, creating vast savannas and prairies that would eventually cover nearly 40% of Earth's land surface. And the mammals were everywhere, running, climbing, burrowing, swimming, flying. Bats had evolved, the only mammals to achieve true flight, navigating the night sky with echolocation, a form of natural sonar so sophisticated that it allows them to catch insects in complete darkness. Here's something wonderfully peaceful. Throughout all these changes, many creatures found their perfect form and simply stopped changing. Sharks have remained largely the same for 400 million years. Crocodiles have been virtually unchanged for 200 million years. horseshoe crabs have looked the same for 450 million years. These animals discovered a way of being that worked so well, so perfectly, that evolution left them alone. They remind us that sometimes, there's no need to keep striving or changing. Sometimes, you can just be exactly what you are, and that is enough. Around 20 million years ago, in the forests of Africa, something new was stirring. Primates that had been living in the trees began to experiment with walking upright when they came down to the ground. This change happened gradually, over millions of years, driven perhaps by shifting climates that turned some forests into more open woodlands. Walking on two legs freed their hands for carrying food, for using tools, for gestures that would one day become communication. These early ancestors of humans were still small, still cautious, still very much a part of the ecosystem rather than separate from it. And the earth continued its patient work. Ice ages came and went, glaciers advancing and retreating like the slow breath of the planet itself. Sea levels rose and fell by hundreds of feet. Land bridges appeared and disappeared, allowing animals to migrate between continents, mixing populations, creating new combinations of life. Through it all, the fundamental processes remained the same as they had been for billions of years. The sun rose, plants captured its light, herbivores ate the plants, carnivores ate the herbivores, and when everything died, it returned to the soil to nourish new growth. The circle continued, unbroken, unhurried, perfect in its simplicity. Rest in that rhythm now. The same rhythms that have sustained life for 4 billion years. The breathing of forests. The turning of seasons. The patient work of roots in soil, of water returning to the sea, of every living thing taking exactly what it needs and no more, existing in balance, in the gentle flow of time. As the ice ages waxed and waned, the world became a place of gentle migrations. Animals didn't fight the changing climate, they simply moved with it, following the warmth or the cold, wherever their bodies felt most at home. Woolly mammoths wandered across vast tundras, their thick fur keeping them warm in landscapes of ice and snow. Giant ground sloths ambled through forests in the Americas, peaceful herbivores the size of elephants, moving slowly through their days, eating leaves, resting, existing without urgency. And in the oceans, whales had grown to enormous sizes, the blue whale becoming the largest animal ever to exist on Earth, larger even than any dinosaur, reaching lengths of up to 100 feet and weights of 200 tons, yet surviving entirely on tiny krill, filtering thousands of gallons of water through their baleen, living gently despite their immense power. Here's something that might ease you into deeper rest. A blue whale's heart beats only 5 to 6 times per minute when it dives. Imagine that, a heartbeat so slow, so calm, so perfectly adapted to a life of gliding through the quiet depths. Their lives are measured in long, peaceful rhythms, slow descents into darkness, slow rises to the surface to breathe, songs that echo across hundreds of miles of ocean, communication happening at the speed of patience itself. Around 2.5 million years ago, the genus Homo emerged in Africa, our direct ancestors, walking upright, using simple stone tools, living in small groups. But even then, they weren't separate from nature. They were part of it, woven into the fabric of the ecosystem. They lived alongside saber-toothed cats and ancient elephants, giant hyenas and ancestral giraffes. They gathered plants, scavenged meat when they could find it, sought shelter in caves and under trees. They watched the stars at night, the same stars we see now, though the constellations have shifted slightly over the millennia. They felt the same sun on their skin, the same rain, the same wind. For most of human existence, roughly 300,000 years for our species, Homo sapiens, we live this way. In small groups, moving with the seasons, taking what we needed, leaving the rest. We developed language, art, music, stories. We painted images of animals on cave walls, handprints in red ochre that say I was here, messages that still speak to us across 40,000 years. But our population remained small, our impact light. We were simply one species among millions, beautiful and creative, yes, but still part of the whole, not separate from it. And the whole was so beautifully, impossibly diverse. By the time humans had spread across the continents, life had filled every possible niche on Earth. There were lichens growing on Antarctic rocks, bacteria thriving in boiling hot springs, fish living in caves so deep they'd never seen light and had evolved to be completely blind. Life had learned to exist everywhere, in deserts where it might not rain for years, in frozen soil where the growing season lasted only a few weeks, in the deepest ocean trenches where the pressure would crush most living things instantly. Life had become infinitely adaptable, endlessly creative, always finding a way. Consider this as you drift towards sleep. There are more than 8.7 million species on Earth today. 8.7 million different ways of being alive, each one a unique solution to the question of existence. There are beetles that glow in the dark to attract mates, their bodies producing light through a chemical reaction so efficient that almost no energy is wasted as heat, natural lanterns floating through tropical nights. There are trees in California, the giant sequoias, that have stood for more than 3,000 years, growing slowly, patiently, their bark so thick that it protects them from fire, their roots intertwined with the roots of their neighbors, supporting each other, sharing water and nutrients through underground networks of fungi. These fungal networks, sometimes called the Wood Wide Web, connect trees across entire forests. Through them, a mother tree can send nutrients to her offspring, older trees can support younger ones that are struggling in shade, and the forest exists not as individual competitors but as a community, each tree connected to dozens of others, sharing resources, communicating through chemical signals, caring for one another in ways scientists are only beginning to understand. The forest floor beneath your feet, should you walk through woods tomorrow, is alive with this quiet cooperation, this gentle sharing, this ancient network of care. And the same is true in the soil itself. A single teaspoon of healthy soil contains more living organisms than there are humans on Earth, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, nematodes, all working together to break down organic matter, to cycle nutrients, to create the foundation for all terrestrial life. They've been doing this work for hundreds of millions of years, asking nothing, expecting nothing, simply being part of the cycle, part of the great breathing rhythm of the earth. Let that thought settle over you like a soft blanket. You are surrounded, always, by life caring for life, by systems of support and cooperation that have worked perfectly for eons, by a world that knows how to sustain itself, how to heal, how to continue. In the quiet spaces of the world, away from the noise and rush of modern life, ancient rhythms continue unchanged. There are places on Earth where time seems to move differently, where life follows patterns so old they feel like prayers. In the forests of the Pacific Northwest, salmon return each year to the streams where they were born, swimming upstream against powerful currents, guided by senses we still don't fully understand, perhaps the chemical signature of their home waters, perhaps the Earth's magnetic field, perhaps something else entirely, some ancient knowing written into their very cells. They've been making this journey for millions of years, and when they reach their spawning grounds, they lay their eggs and then peacefully die, their bodies becoming food for the forest, their nutrients feeding the trees that shade the streams where their offspring will hatch. This is one of nature's most beautiful truths. Death is never an ending, only a transformation. Every atom in your body has been part of countless other living things before you. The calcium in your bones may once have been part of a dinosaur, an ancient coral reef, a trilobite crawling across the ocean floor 400 million years ago. The iron in your blood may have been forged in the heart of a star that exploded long before our sun was born. You are made of stardust in ancient seas, of creatures long extinct and elements that have cycled through the earth and sky for billions of years. You are, quite literally, the universe experiencing itself, life becoming aware of its own existence. And this awareness, this consciousness, is itself a wonder that emerged so gradually, so gently, over such vast stretches of time. The first nervous systems appeared in simple creatures more than 600 million years ago, just a few cells clustered together, able to sense light or touch and respond to it. Over hundreds of millions of years, these nervous systems grew more complex. Fish developed brains that could process visual information, coordinate movement, remember where food could be found. Reptiles added new structures that helped with spatial memory and navigation. Mammals developed the limbic system, allowing for emotions, for bonding, for the love a mother feels for her young. And then, in primates, the cortex expanded, folding in on itself to create more surface area, more connections, more capacity for thought. But even our human brains, for all their complexity, are still built on that ancient foundation. The deepest, oldest parts of our brain, the brainstem and cerebellum, are sometimes called the reptilian brain because they're virtually identical to structures found in lizards and crocodiles. When you breathe without thinking, when your heart beats steadily as you rest, these ancient parts of your brain are doing their quiet work, following instructions written hundreds of millions of years ago, keeping you alive with the same reliable processes that have kept animals alive since the age of dinosaurs. There's something profoundly comforting in this. You don't have to try to breathe, to digest your food, to maintain your body temperature. These things happen automatically, guided by wisdom older than mountains, older than forests, older than the very shape of the continents. Your body knows what to do. It has always known. It carries within it the accumulated knowledge of 4 billion years of life learning how to survive, how to thrive, how to rest. And rest is essential. Every animal sleeps in some form. Dolphins sleep with half their brain at a time, one hemisphere resting while the other keeps them swimming and breathing. Birds can sleep while flying, taking thousands of tiny naps during long migrations across oceans. Even insects experience something like sleep, periods of reduced activity and responsiveness that seem to be necessary for their nervous systems to function properly. Sleep isn't laziness or lost time, it's a fundamental part of life, as important as eating or breathing, a time when the body repairs itself, when memories are consolidated, when the mind processes the experiences of the day and integrates them into the story of who we are. In the deepest stage of sleep, your brain waves slow to a gentle rhythm called delta waves, cycling just once or twice per second. Your muscles relax completely. Your breathing becomes deep and regular. And in this state, your body releases growth hormones, repairs tissues, strengthens your immune system, and clears away the metabolic waste products that accumulate during waking hours. Sleep is healing. Sleep is restoration. Sleep is your body's way of honoring the ancient rhythms, of returning to the fundamental patterns that have sustained life since the beginning. Even the earth itself has rhythms of rest. Deciduous trees drop their leaves and enter dormancy each winter, their sap slowing, their metabolism reducing almost to nothing, waiting patiently for spring. Bears hibernate in dens, their heart rate dropping from 40 beats per minute to just 8, their body temperature falling, their breathing slowing to one breath every 45 seconds. They sleep for months, and when they emerge in spring, they are ready to begin again, restored by their long rest. Let yourself follow these ancient patterns now. Let your breathing slow like a hibernating bear's. Let your thoughts settle like falling leaves. You are part of these rhythms, connected to every living thing that has ever rested, ever slept, ever trusted the darkness to hold them safely until morning comes again. In the stillness of night, while you rest, the world continues its gentle work. Earthworms move through the soil, aerating it, breaking down organic matter, creating channels for water and air to reach plant roots. A single earthworm can process up to 36 tons of soil in its lifetime, quietly transforming the earth, asking nothing in return. Charles Darwin spent 39 years studying earthworms and concluded that few animals have played a more important role in the history of the world than these humble creatures. They've been doing this work for 600 million years, since long before plants even existed on land, and they continue still, patient and tireless, in gardens and forests across the globe. And in the oceans, even in the deepest darkness where sunlight never reaches, life continues in ways that seem almost magical. There are jellyfish that glow with bioluminescence, creating their own light through chemical reactions in their bodies, drifting through the black water like living constellations. Some of these deep-sea jellyfish are thought to be biologically immortal. When they reach old age or become injured, they can revert back to their juvenile form and begin their life cycle again, potentially repeating this process forever. They remind us that even our concepts of beginning and ending are not absolute, that life finds ways to continue that we're only beginning to understand. In the darkest depths, at the very bottom of ocean trenches 7 miles below the surface, where the pressure is more than 1,000 times that at sea level, life still thrives. There are fish with bodies so specially adapted that they would dissolve if brought to the surface, amphipods the size of dinner plates scuttling across the seafloor, and entire ecosystems built around hydrothermal vents, where superheated water rich in minerals provides energy for bacteria that form the base of a food chain that has nothing to do with sunlight. These creatures live in eternal darkness, in crushing pressure, in a world so extreme we once thought nothing could survive there. And yet they do. Life always finds a way. Life is more resilient, more creative, more determined than we ever give it credit for. This resilience is woven into every living thing. When a starfish loses an arm to a predator, it simply grows a new one, the cells reorganizing themselves, following ancient instructions to rebuild what was lost. Some species of starfish can even regenerate their entire body from a single severed arm. Salamanders can regrow lost limbs, tails, even portions of their hearts and brains. Deer grow and shed entire antlers every year, creating pounds of bone in just a few months, then letting it all fall away, trusting that it will grow back again when needed. Trees damaged by storms or fire seal their wounds with new growth, compartmentalizing the injury and continuing to live, sometimes for centuries more, their scars becoming part of their story but not the end of it. Your own body has this same wisdom. Right now, as you rest, millions of cells are dividing, replacing old cells with new ones. Your skin completely renews itself every 28 days. Your liver can regenerate fully even if 75% of it is removed. The lining of your stomach replaces itself every few days, protecting itself from the acid it produces. You are not the same physical being you were 7 years ago. Almost every cell in your body has been replaced since then. You are constantly being remade, rebuilt, renewed, following processes so ancient and reliable that they happen without your conscious thought, without your effort, without your worry. And this renewal happens in rhythm with the world around you. Your body temperature naturally drops at night, preparing you for sleep. Melatonin, the hormone that makes you drowsy, is triggered by darkness, just as it has been for countless generations of animals before you. Your circadian rhythm, that internal clock that tells you when to sleep and when to wake, is synchronized with the rotation of the earth, with the rising and setting of the sun, with the same 24-hour cycle that has governed life for billions of years. You are not separate from these rhythms. You are an expression of them, a continuation of them, as natural as the tides, as inevitable as the seasons. Consider the migration of monarch butterflies, those delicate creatures with orange and black wings. Each fall, millions of them fly from Canada and the United States to a small area of mountain forests in Mexico, a journey of up to 3,000 miles. But here's what makes this truly miraculous: the butterflies that make this journey have never been to Mexico before. Their parents are dead, their grandparents are dead, and yet somehow they know exactly where to go, finding the same trees, sometimes the same branches, that their great-great-grandparents roost on. This knowledge is encoded in their genes, passed down through generations, an inheritance of direction, of purpose, of trust in the journey. You carry similar inheritances. The ability to love, to feel awe, to find comfort in repetition and rhythm, to seek connection with others, these aren't learned behaviors. They're ancient instincts, gifts from millions of years of ancestors who survived by caring for one another, by working together, by finding beauty and meaning in the world around them. When you feel moved by a sunset or calmed by the sound of rain, you're experiencing something your ancestors experienced, something that connects you to every human who has ever lived, and beyond that, to every creature that has ever paused to feel safe, to feel at peace, to feel, even for a moment, that all is well. There's a forest in Utah, a grove of quaking aspen trees that looks like many individual trees but is actually a single organism. Called Pando, which means I spread in Latin, this forest is connected by one massive underground root system. Every tree, all 47,000 of them, is genetically identical, a clone of the original tree that first took root here. Together, they weigh nearly 13 million pounds, making Pando the heaviest known organism on Earth. And the most remarkable thing? Scientists believe this single living being may be 80,000 years old, perhaps much older, making it one of the oldest living things on the planet. While individual tree trunks live and die, the root system persists, sending up new shoots, continuing its quiet existence through ice ages and droughts, through countless seasons of growth and rest. Pando teaches us something beautiful, that individual and collective can be the same thing, that what looks separate may actually be deeply connected, that survival sometimes means being part of something larger than yourself. And this interconnection exists everywhere in nature, in ways both visible and hidden. In the soil of forests worldwide, mycelium, the underground network of fungi, connects not just trees of the same species, but different species as well, creating what scientists call a common mycorrhizal network. Through these fungal threads, finer than the finest human hair, a Douglas fir can send carbon to a birch tree struggling in deep shade. An old tree can support its young. Different species can warn each other of insect attacks by sending chemical signals through the network. The forest floor is alive with conversation, with cooperation, with an ancient form of communication that predates human language by hundreds of millions of years. And even individual trees, standing alone, are never truly alone. A single oak tree can support more than 2,300 species of organisms, insects living in its bark, birds nesting in its branches, squirrels storing acorns in its shadow, lichens growing on its trunk, fungi digesting its fallen leaves, bacteria fixing nitrogen around its roots. An oak tree is not just a tree, it's an entire world, a community, an ecosystem unto itself. When you see a tree, you're seeing only the most visible part of a vast web of relationships, of dependencies, of life supporting life in countless invisible ways. This same principle extends to your own body. You are, in a very real sense, not one organism but many. Your body contains roughly 37 trillion human cells, but it also hosts between 38 and 100 trillion bacterial cells, microorganisms living in your gut, on your skin, in your mouth, helping you digest food, producing vitamins, training your immune system, even influencing your mood and behavior. You are a walking ecosystem, a community of life forms working together so seamlessly that you experience them as a single self. You are never alone, even when you think you are. You are always accompanied, always supported, always part of something larger. In the ocean, coral reefs demonstrate this same principle of collective life. What looks like a single coral is actually thousands of tiny animals called polyps, each no bigger than a pinhead, living together in colonies, building massive structures from calcium carbonate that can be seen from space. The Great Barrier Reef, stretching over 1,400 miles along Australia's coast, is the largest living structure on Earth, built slowly, patiently, by countless tiny creatures over thousands of years. Each polyp also hosts microscopic algae called zooxanthellae inside its tissues, a partnership so intimate that neither can survive without the other. The algae photosynthesize, providing food for the coral. The coral provides shelter and nutrients for the algae. Together, they create the foundation for ecosystems that support a quarter of all marine species. This is how life has always worked, through partnership, through symbiosis, through relationships of mutual benefit. Flowers and pollinators evolved together, each shaping the other over millions of years. The brilliant colors of flowers, their sweet nectar, their intricate shapes, all of these exist because of bees and butterflies and hummingbirds. And those pollinators, in turn, developed long tongues to reach nectar, color vision to find flowers, the ability to remember which flowers they've already visited. Neither would exist in their current form without the other. They are bound together in an ancient dance of giving and receiving, of need and fulfillment, of life enabling life. Even competition in nature is rarely the brutal, winner-take-all struggle we sometimes imagine. When wolves hunt elk, they typically take the old, the sick, the weak, those who are already struggling. In doing so, they keep the elk population healthy and prevent overgrazing that would damage the ecosystem. The wolves aren't cruel, they're playing their role in maintaining balance. And the elk, for their part, shape the behavior of wolves by staying alert, staying together, protecting their young. Predator and prey are locked in a relationship that has refined both species over millions of years, making each one faster, smarter, more aware. They need each other, in a strange way. They complete each other's existence. Let this truth sink in as you drift deeper into rest. Everything is connected. The oxygen you breathe was produced by plants and photosynthetic bacteria. The food you ate today came from the sun's energy, captured and transformed by living things. The water you drank has cycled through clouds and rivers and oceans and the bodies of countless creatures for billions of years. You are made of the earth, sustained by it, held by it, part of its great breathing rhythm. And when you rest in the arms of a world that has been cradling life for 4 billion years, that knows how to hold you, that will still be here when you wake. As night deepens and the world grows quiet, certain creatures are just beginning their day. Owls lift silently from their perches, their specialized feathers designed to muffle sound, allowing them to fly in near total silence as they hunt. Their hearing is so acute that they can detect a mouse moving beneath a foot of snow, pinpointing its location by sound alone. In their eyes, those large, forward-facing eyes, gather every available photon of light, allowing them to see in conditions we would consider complete darkness. They've been perfecting these abilities for 60 million years, ever since the first owls appeared in the forests of the Paleocene, and they continue their silent vigils now, patient hunters in the darkness, asking only for enough to survive. Bats, too, are awake now, pouring out of caves and hollow trees in great clouds, their echolocation calls too high-pitched for human ears to detect. A single bat can eat up to 1,000 mosquitoes in an hour, providing a service to the ecosystem that we rarely acknowledge or appreciate. And as they fly, they pollinate night-blooming flowers and spread seeds across vast distances. In tropical rainforests, more than 500 species of plants depend on bats for pollination or seed dispersal, including mangoes, bananas, and agave, the plant used to make tequila. These small, often feared creatures are gardeners of the night, tending the forest without recognition, without thanks, simply because it is their nature to do so. In the darkness of the forest floor, fungi are doing their most important work. Mushrooms are merely the fruiting bodies of vast fungal networks that spread through the soil like underground galaxies. A single fungus in Oregon's Blue Mountains is estimated to cover 2,384 acres and may be over 2,400 years old, making it one of the largest and oldest organisms on Earth. These fungi are the Earth's great decomposers, breaking down dead wood, fallen leaves, and the bodies of animals, returning their nutrients to the soil where they can nourish new life. Without fungi, the world would be buried under mountains of organic matter that never decayed. Forests would choke on their own fallen trees. The cycle of life would grind to a halt. But fungi ask for nothing, expect nothing. They simply do their quiet work, generation after generation, transforming death into possibility. This transformation is happening constantly, everywhere, in ways both grand and invisible. Every breath you exhale contains carbon dioxide that will be absorbed by a plant somewhere, incorporated into its leaves or stems, becoming part of its body. When that plant dies and decomposes, some of that carbon will return to the atmosphere, but some will be stored in the soil, sometimes for thousands of years. The soil beneath ancient grasslands can contain more carbon than all the trees in the Amazon rainforest, locked away in the dark earth by countless generations of grasses that lived, died, and were gently folded into the ground by earthworms and microorganisms. This is carbon that once floated in the atmosphere, that was once part of carbon dioxide molecules, that may have been exhaled by a dinosaur or absorbed by a fern in the Carboniferous or released by a volcano at the dawn of Earth's history. Everything cycles. Nothing is ever truly lost. The same water you drank today has been cycling through the Earth system for billions of years. It has fallen as rain on ancient oceans, been absorbed by the first plants to colonize land, flowed through the bodies of trilobites and tyrannosaurs, risen as mist from tropical rivers, frozen in glaciers for 10,000 years, and melted again to flow to the sea. Water is never destroyed, only transformed, moving endlessly through the hydrologic cycle, evaporation, condensation, precipitation, collection, a rhythm as old as the oceans themselves. The average age of water on Earth is billions of years, and yet it is always new, always fresh, always ready to support life once more. There are trees alive today that were saplings when the Roman Empire fell. Bristlecone pines in the mountains of California, gnarled and weathered, have been growing for more than 5,000 years. They were already ancient when the pyramids were built, already old when writing was invented. They've witnessed the entire span of human civilization, and they continue still, growing perhaps a fraction of an inch each year, adding one thin ring to their trunks, patient beyond measure. When you look at a cross-section of an old tree, you're looking at a record of time itself, each ring a year, wider rings marking good years with plenty of rain, narrow rings showing droughts or harsh winters. The tree remembers everything, holds it all in its body, a living archive of seasons and centuries. And in the coldest parts of the world, in the permafrost of Siberia and Canada, seeds and spores have been preserved for thousands of years, waiting. In 2012, scientists successfully germinated a narrow-leafed campion plant from seeds that had been frozen for 32,000 years, buried by an ancient squirrel and preserved in the ice. The plant grew, flowered, and produced seeds of its own, a direct continuation of life from the Pleistocene, a reminder that life is patient, that it can wait, that it endures even when all seems frozen and still. You, too, can wait. You can rest. You can trust that when morning comes, when warmth returns, when it is time to wake and grow again, you will. But for now, there is only this, the darkness, the quiet, the slow rhythm of your breathing matching the slow rhythm of the earth, turning peacefully through the night, held in the vast embrace of space and time, safe, always safe, in the gentle hands of a universe that has been caring for life since the first stars formed, since the first molecules assembled themselves into something that could grow and change and rest and wake again. Everything is as it should be. Everything is unfolding in its own perfect time. In the depths of the ocean, where pressure and darkness reign, there exists a phenomenon so beautiful it seems like something from a dream. Each night, the largest migration on Earth takes place, not across land or through air, but vertically through the water column. Billions of small creatures, zooplankton, tiny fish, squid, jellyfish, rise from the deep ocean toward the surface to feed, then descend again before dawn. This migration happens every single night, in every ocean on Earth, and has been happening for millions of years. It involves more biomass than any other daily movement of animals on the planet, and yet most humans will never witness it, never even know it's happening. The ocean keeps its secrets, performing its ancient rhythms in darkness and silence, asking nothing of us, expecting nothing, simply continuing as it always has. These migrating creatures are following the most fundamental drive of all living things, the search for food, for energy, for the fuel that keeps life going. And all of that energy, ultimately, comes from the same source, the sun. Every calorie of energy in your body can be traced back to sunlight captured by a plant or photosynthetic bacteria. The food chain is really an energy chain, with the sun at its source, its light transformed by chlorophyll into chemical bonds, into sugars and starches, which are eaten by herbivores, which are eaten by carnivores, the energy passing from one organism to another, diminishing slightly at each step, but continuing, flowing, sustaining the great web of life. And the sun itself, that burning sphere 93 million miles away, is the product of an even older process. The sun formed 4.6 billion years ago from a cloud of gas and dust left over from earlier generations of stars. The hydrogen atoms fusing in its core to create helium and release energy are the same hydrogen atoms that formed minutes after the Big Bang, 13.8 billion years ago. The heavier elements, the carbon in your cells, the iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, were forged in the hearts of massive stars that lived and died before our sun was born, scattering their enriched material into space when they exploded as supernovae. You are made of star stuff, as the astronomer Carl Sagan famously said. You are the universe looking back at itself, matter that has become conscious, ancient elements assembled in such a way that they can wonder about their own origins. This sense of wonder, this capacity for awe, may itself be one of the most beautiful products of evolution. Humans are not the only animals who seem to experience something like wonder. Elephants have been observed gently touching the bones of their dead with their trunks, appearing to mourn, to remember. Whales sing songs that change slowly over years, cultural transmissions that spread across entire ocean basins, perhaps a form of art, of expression for its own sake. Crows and ravens play, sliding down snowy slopes on their backs, apparently just for the joy of it. The capacity to find meaning, to experience beauty, to pause in the midst of survival and simply appreciate existence, this may be more widespread in the animal kingdom than we ever imagined. And for humans, this capacity has led to something extraordinary, the ability to understand our own place in the great story of life, to trace our lineage back through time, to recognize our kinship with every living thing. When you look into the eyes of a dog or a cat, you're looking at a creature with whom you share a common ancestor that lived about 96 million years ago, a small, shrew-like mammal hiding from dinosaurs. When you see a bird, you share an ancestor from roughly 312 million years ago, a reptile-like creature in the Carboniferous. Go back far enough, and you share ancestors with oak trees, with mushrooms, with bacteria, all of us branches on the same tree of life, all of us descended from that first simple cell that learned to replicate itself 4 billion years ago in the warm waters of the ancient ocean. This means that in a very real sense, you are related to everything alive. The grass growing outside your window is your distant cousin. The spider in the corner of your room is family. This isn't metaphor, it's biology, it's fact, written in the DNA that all living things share. The genetic code that stores information in your cells is the same code used by bacteria, by redwood trees, by blue whales. We all speak the same molecular language, use the same basic machinery, follow the same fundamental rules. Life is one thing, expressing itself in millions of forms, exploring every possible variation, but always, at its core, the same miracle of self-organizing chemistry, the same beautiful improbability. And improbable it is. The odds of life arising from non-living chemistry are difficult to calculate, but they seem vanishingly small. And yet it happened. Perhaps it happened only once, on this one planet, in this one solar system, in this vast and ancient universe. Or perhaps it has happened countless times, on worlds we'll never see, in galaxies too distant for their light to ever reach us. We don't know. We may never know. But we do know this, it happened here. Against all odds, in defiance of entropy and chaos, life began, and persisted, and grew more complex, and filled every available space with its presence, and eventually became aware of itself, and looked up at the stars and wondered. And now you are here, a conscious being, made of ancient atoms, breathing air created by bacteria billions of years ago, drinking water that has been cycling through the Earth system since oceans first formed, thinking thoughts generated by a brain built on patterns millions of years old, resting in a body that knows how to heal itself, how to renew itself, how to sleep and wake and continue. You are the product of an unbroken chain of survival stretching back to the beginning of life itself. Every single one of your ancestors, going back thousands of generations, millions of generations, to the first replicating molecules, survived long enough to reproduce. You are the result of the most successful lineage in the history of Earth. You carry that success in your genes, in your cells, in your very existence. So rest now, knowing you are exactly where you're meant to be, exactly when you're meant to be here, part of a story so vast and so beautiful that it contains multitudes, and yet so intimate that it lives in every breath you take. In the stillness of this moment, somewhere on Earth, a seed is germinating. Perhaps it fell from a tree months ago, or perhaps it has been waiting in the soil for years, decades even, patient beyond human understanding. Some seeds can remain dormant for centuries, waiting for the exact right conditions, the perfect combination of moisture, temperature, and light, before they begin to grow. The oldest seed ever successfully germinated was a date palm seed found in an ancient fortress in Israel, roughly 2,000 years old, from the time of Christ. When planted and given water, it sprouted, grew into a tree, and even produced fruit. Life was waiting, all that time, ready to continue. This patience is everywhere in nature. Cicadas spend 17 years underground as nymphs, slowly feeding on tree roots in the darkness, waiting for the right moment to emerge all at once in a great chorus of life. Bamboo can grow for decades, seemingly doing nothing, and then suddenly, in a matter of weeks, shoot up to heights of 90 feet, growing as much as 3 feet in a single day, the fastest growing plant on Earth. It wasn't doing nothing all those years, it was building an extensive root system, gathering strength, preparing. And when the time was right, it grew with an explosive patience, a quiet power that had been building underground all along. You, too, have this same capacity, to wait, to prepare, to trust that growth will come when conditions are right. Not everything happens according to our timelines, our schedules, our anxious desires for immediate results. Sometimes the most important work happens invisibly, underground, in darkness and silence. Sometimes rest is not the absence of growth but the preparation for it. In the Arctic tundra, where winter lasts 9 months and temperatures can drop to 50 degrees below zero, life has learned to wait through the darkness. plants compress their entire growing season into just a few short weeks of summer, blooming quickly, producing seeds, then returning to dormancy for the long winter ahead. Arctic poppies turn their cup-shaped flowers to follow the sun across the sky, focusing its warmth toward their centers where seeds develop, making the most of every precious ray of light. Reindeer migrate hundreds of miles to find food, following routes their ancestors have traveled for thousands of years, moving with the seasons rather than fighting against them. And in the coldest parts of the Arctic, animals have evolved remarkable adaptations for survival. Arctic ground squirrels can lower their body temperature below freezing during hibernation. Their blood supercools without forming ice crystals, allowing them to survive in a state that seems impossible. Their heart rate drops to just 1 beat per minute. They take a breath only once every few minutes. They exist in a state between life and death, trusting completely in their body's ability to return to wakefulness when spring arrives. And they always do. Year after year, generation after generation, they sleep and wake, following the ancient rhythm. Even in Antarctica, the coldest, driest, windiest continent on Earth, life persists. Emperor penguins huddle together through the winter darkness, males incubating eggs on their feet, rotating positions so that each penguin takes turns in the warm center of the group and on the cold outer edge. No single penguin suffers alone. They share the burden of survival, cooperating in one of Earth's harshest environments. And when the chicks hatch, both parents take turns feeding them, making long journeys across the ice to the ocean and back, driven by an instinct older than the ice itself, the instinct to care, to nurture, to ensure that life continues. This care is fundamental to life. It appears in every species that raises young, from the tiniest insects to the largest whales. A mother octopus will guard her eggs for months, gently cleaning them, ensuring water flows over them, never leaving even to eat, and when they finally hatch, she dies, having given everything to the next generation. Crocodiles, often portrayed as mindless predators, are devoted parents. Mothers carry their newly hatched babies gently in their mouths to the water and protect them for months. Wolves care for injured pack members, bringing them food, adjusting their hunting patterns to accommodate those who cannot keep up. Elephants will try to lift a fallen companion, staying with the body for days, touching it with their trunks, seemingly understanding loss in a way we recognize as grief. This capacity for care, for love, for sacrifice, it's written into the very fabric of life. It has to be. Species that don't care for their young, that don't cooperate, that don't form bonds, tend not to survive. Evolution has favored kindness, cooperation, empathy. These aren't human inventions or moral choices imposed on an indifferent nature. They are nature. They are how life sustains itself, how it continues, how it flourishes. And you are part of this great lineage of care. You have been cared for, by parents or guardians who kept you safe when you were helpless, by countless people whose names you'll never know who built the world you inhabit, by the sun that warms you, by the plants that feed you, by the bacteria in your gut that help you digest, by the ancient processes in your cells that keep you alive without your conscious effort. You are held, always, by systems of care both visible and invisible, both chosen and automatic, both personal and universal. As you sink deeper into sleep now, let yourself feel that support. Let yourself trust it. You don't have to hold yourself up. You don't have to stay vigilant. You can let go, completely, the way a seed lets go when it falls to the earth, the way a leaf lets go when autumn comes, the way every living thing releases itself into rest, knowing, not with thought but with the deep cellular knowing of 4 billion years, that it is safe, that it is held, that the world will continue its patient work of sustaining life while you dream. The earth turns. The stars will overhead. The ocean breathes in its ancient rhythm. And you are part of it all, resting in the heart of existence, exactly where you belong. Somewhere in the world right now, the sun is rising. Light is spilling across landscapes that have witnessed this moment billions of times before, mountains that have stood for hundreds of millions of years, rivers that have flowed since the Ice Age ended, forests that have grown and died and grown again in cycles as reliable as breath. And with that light comes awakening. Birds begin their dawn chorus, each species adding its voice at a precise moment, creating a symphony that is played every morning since birds first learned to sing. The timing is so precise that you could set your watch by it. Robins sing first, then wrens, then sparrows, each knowing its exact place in the song. This dawn chorus serves many purposes: males declaring territory, attracting mates, strengthening pair bonds, but there's something in it that seems to transcend mere function. It sounds like celebration, like joy, like a greeting to the day that is both ancient instinct and something more, something we might recognize as the simple pleasure of being alive to witness another sunrise. Even after 150 million years of birds singing at dawn, it never grows old, never becomes routine. Each morning is new, each song fresh, each sunrise a gift. And the sun that rises is the same sun that warmed the first living cells, that shone on trilobites in ancient seas, that lit the days of dinosaurs, that early humans watched with wonder, not yet understanding that it was a star, not yet knowing how far away it was, but feeling its warmth, its life-giving power, its constancy. The sun is middle-aged now, about 4.6 billion years old, with another 5 billion years of life ahead of it before it exhausts its hydrogen fuel and begins to expand into a red giant. For all of human history, for all the history of life on Earth, the sun has been our constant companion, reliable and steady, asking nothing, giving everything. The light from the sun takes 8 minutes to reach Earth, traveling at 186,000 miles per second across the void of space. The photon that touches your skin when you step outside tomorrow began its journey in the sun's core roughly 100,000 years ago, bouncing randomly between atoms in the dense solar interior, slowly working its way toward the surface, before finally escaping into space and racing toward Earth. That light is older than human civilization, older than agriculture, older than language. It has traveled across emptiness to reach you, to warm you, to make your life possible. And that light, when it touches a leaf, performs the most important chemical reaction in the history of Earth, photosynthesis. Inside tiny cellular structures called chloroplasts, which were once free-living bacteria that merged with plant cells billions of years ago, the light's energy is captured and used to split water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen. The oxygen is released into the air, the breath you're breathing right now. The hydrogen is combined with carbon dioxide to create sugars, the fundamental building blocks of plant tissue, which becomes wood and leaves and fruit, which feeds herbivores, which feeds carnivores, which eventually decomposes and returns nutrients to the soil to feed plants again. The entire living world runs on sunlight, captured one photon at a time, transformed into life. A single mature oak tree can produce enough oxygen in 1 year to support 2 people. The Amazon rainforest, spanning 2.1 million square miles, produces 20% of Earth's oxygen and is sometimes called the lungs of the planet. Every breath you take contains oxygen molecules created by plants and photosynthetic bacteria, some created recently by a tree in your neighborhood, others created days or weeks ago by plankton in the ocean and carried to you on global wind currents. You are breathing the exhalations of forests and seas, participating in an exchange that connects you to every photosynthetic organism on Earth. But plants do more than produce oxygen. They also stabilize the climate, regulate the water cycle, prevent erosion, create habitats for countless other species, and remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. A single tree can absorb 48 pounds of carbon dioxide per year. Over its lifetime, a tree planted today could absorb a ton of carbon dioxide, transforming atmospheric gas into solid wood, locking it away for as long as the tree stands. And when the tree eventually falls and begins to decompose, it becomes a nurse log, providing nutrients and habitat for seedlings, for fungi, for insects, for salamanders and small mammals. Even in death, it continues to give life. This generosity is everywhere in nature. Flowers produce far more nectar than they need to for pollination, sharing sweetness freely with any creature that visits. Fruit trees create abundant fruit, more than any single animal could eat, ensuring that seeds are dispersed widely. Rivers carry nutrients from mountains to seas, nourishing ecosystems along their entire length. The earth itself is extraordinarily generous, producing far more than the minimum needed for survival, creating abundance, beauty, diversity beyond measure. And in this abundance, there is room for rest, for ease, for trust that there will be enough. Squirrels bury thousands of acorns each fall but forget where many of them are buried, and those forgotten seeds become new oak trees. The squirrel's forgetfulness becomes the forest's future. Even mistakes, even what seems like waste or failure, can become gifts in disguise, can serve purposes we never intended, can contribute to patterns larger than our individual plans. Let yourself rest in this abundance now. Let yourself trust that the same forces that have sustained life for 4 billion years will continue to sustain it tomorrow. You don't have to solve everything, fix everything, understand everything tonight. The world is vast and complex and largely self-sustaining. Your rest contributes to it. Your sleep is not selfish, it's necessary, it's natural, it's part of the rhythm that keeps all things balanced and whole. In the gentle rhythm of your breathing, you're participating in something ancient and universal. Every creature with lungs breathes in this same pattern: an inhale, a pause, an exhale, a pause, a rhythm as old as the first amphibians that crawled onto land 375 million years ago and developed lungs to extract oxygen from air instead of water. Before that, for 3 billion years, life breathed only through water or cell membranes. The invention of lungs was revolutionary, allowing animals to venture farther from water, to colonize dry land, to eventually give rise to reptiles, birds, and mammals. And yet the rhythm remains the same, unchanged across hundreds of millions of years. Your breath connects you to every air-breathing animal that has ever lived. And breathing is more than just oxygen exchange, it's a conversation with the world. Trees and plants breathe too, in their way, taking in carbon dioxide through tiny pores in their leaves called stomata, and releasing oxygen as a byproduct of photosynthesis. At night, they reverse the process slightly, taking in small amounts of oxygen for their own cellular respiration. The forest breathes. The ocean breathes, absorbing oxygen and carbon dioxide at its surface. The soil breathes, as billions of microorganisms consume oxygen while breaking down organic matter. The entire planet breathes, and you are part of that planetary breath, part of the vast exchange that keeps the atmosphere balanced, that keeps life possible. In the ocean, the breathing of phytoplankton, microscopic plants that drift in the sunlit upper waters, produces more oxygen than all the world's forests combined. These tiny organisms, invisible to the naked eye, form the foundation of the marine food web and generate at least 50% of Earth's oxygen. A single drop of seawater can contain millions of phytoplankton cells, each one photosynthesizing, each one contributing to the breath of the world. They've been doing this work for at least 3.5 billion years, since long before there were forests or even land plants. They are the original breath givers, the ancestors of all photosynthetic life, and they continue still, unnoticed, uncelebrated, asking nothing, sustaining everything. When you look at the ocean, remember that you're looking at the origin of all life, the womb from which everything emerged. The salt concentration in your blood, about 0.9%, is remarkably similar to the salinity of ancient seas, evidence that we carry the ocean within us, that we never truly left it. When a baby develops in the womb, it floats in amniotic fluid that is chemically similar to seawater, recapitulating that ancient marine origin. We are, in a very real sense, land-adapted ocean creatures, carrying a piece of the sea wherever we go, never forgetting where we came from. And the ocean remembers too. Its currents follow patterns established millions of years ago, driven by the rotation of the Earth, by differences in temperature and salinity, by the pull of the moon. The Gulf Stream has been carrying warm water from the Caribbean to the North Atlantic for millions of years, moderating climates, influencing weather patterns, connecting distant parts of the world in a great circulatory system that functions like the Earth's bloodstream. Ocean currents can take 1,000 years to complete one full cycle, carrying water from the surface to the depths and back again, a slow-motion river flowing through the sea, patient beyond human reckoning. The moon that pulls those tides has been Earth's companion for 4.5 billion years, formed when a Mars-sized object collided with the early Earth, sending debris into orbit that gradually coalesced into our satellite. The moon stabilizes Earth's rotation, keeping our axis tilt relatively constant, which gives us stable seasons and a climate that allowed complex life to evolve. Without the moon, Earth would wobble chaotically, seasons would be unpredictable, and life might never have gained the foothold it needed to flourish. The moon is our guardian, our steady partner, circling Earth endlessly, pulling the tides that stirred the ancient seas where life began, illuminating the night for every creature that has ever looked up in wonder. And creatures have looked up in wonder. Humans have always been fascinated by the moon, but we're not alone in noticing it. Many animals time their behaviors to lunar cycles. Sea turtles nest during full moons when high tides help them reach suitable nesting sites. Corals spawn en masse during specific lunar phases, releasing eggs and sperm simultaneously in a coordinated event that ensures fertilization. Certain species of fish, crabs, and worms time their reproductive cycles to the moon. Even in the depths of the ocean, where no moonlight penetrates, some creatures seem to sense the lunar cycle through subtle changes in tidal forces. The moon's influence extends everywhere, invisible but profound, a cosmic presence that shapes life in ways both obvious and subtle. Wolves don't actually howl more during full moons, that's a myth, but they do howl, and their howls can be heard up to 10 miles away, serving to rally the pack, to communicate across distances, to declare territory, to strengthen bonds. There's something haunting and beautiful about a wolf's howl, something that speaks to the loneliness and the connection inherent in existence, the need to call out into the darkness and hope for an answer, to know that you're not alone. You are not alone. You are connected to everything, to the ocean that gave birth to your ancestors, to the moon that steadies your planet, to the wolves howling in distant wilderness, to the phytoplankton breathing in the sea, To every living thing that shares this moment with you, breathing in, breathing out, participating in the great exchange of life. Even in silence, even in darkness, even in the solitude of sleep, you are part of an immense community, a web of relationships that extends through space and time, connecting all things in ways both visible and invisible. Rest in that connection now. Let it hold you. Let it be enough. In the deepest parts of the ocean, where no sunlight has ever reached, there are creatures that create their own light. Bioluminescence, the production of light by living organisms, is one of nature's most enchanting adaptations. Fireflies flash in summer meadows, their synchronized blinking creating patterns of communication that look like magic. Certain mushrooms glow softly green in the darkness of forest floors, their bioluminescence possibly attracting insects that help spread their spores. And in the ocean's depths, up to 90% of creatures produce their own light, turning the darkness into a living constellation of blues and greens, a light show that has been performing for hundreds of millions of years with no audience except the creatures themselves. Some deep-sea creatures use their light to attract prey, dangling glowing lures in front of their mouths like living fishing rods. Others use it to communicate, to find mates, to startle predators, or to camouflage themselves by matching the faint light filtering down from above, erasing their shadows. Each species has evolved its own unique pattern, its own purpose, its own way of making light in the darkness. They don't need the sun. They carry their own illumination, proof that even in the most lightless places, life finds a way to shine. This ability to create light from within comes from a chemical reaction between a molecule called luciferin and an enzyme called luciferase, in the presence of oxygen. The reaction is remarkably efficient, up to 90% of the energy produced becomes light, with almost no waste heat, far more efficient than any light bulb humans have ever created. Nature perfected efficient lighting hundreds of millions of years before we even attempted it. And the same basic mechanism appears in creatures as diverse as bacteria, fungi, jellyfish, worms, and fish, suggesting it may have evolved multiple times independently, a solution so elegant that life discovered it again and again. Above the ocean, on land, fireflies use their light for perhaps the most universal purpose of all, finding love. Male fireflies flash specific patterns as they fly, each species with its own unique rhythm and timing. Females watch from the grass below, and when they see a flash pattern they recognize as their own species, they flash back, creating a conversation of light. The male follows the responding flashes until he finds her, and they mate, continuing a ritual that has worked for millions of years, as reliable as the phases of the moon, as old as summer itself. In Japan, certain species of fireflies synchronize their flashing, thousands of males lighting up simultaneously in trees along riverbanks, creating waves of light that wash through the darkness in perfect unison. No one leads this synchronization, it emerges spontaneously from simple rules each firefly follows, each one adjusting its timing based on the flashes of its neighbors, until harmony emerges from what began as chaos. This self-organization, this ability to create order without a leader or a plan, appears throughout nature, in flocking birds, in schooling fish, in the coordinated movement of wildebeest herds, in the intricate structures of termite mounds built by millions of individual insects following simple local rules that create global complexity. Order emerges naturally. Patterns form spontaneously. The universe tends toward organization, toward structure, toward complexity, even as the second law of thermodynamics says that entropy should increase, that things should fall apart. Life is one of the ways the universe creates pockets of order, islands of organization in a sea of chaos. And you are one of those islands, a highly organized, improbably complex arrangement of atoms that can think and feel and wonder about its own existence. The atoms in your body are ancient, most of them billions of years old, forged in stars or created in the Big Bang itself. But the pattern they form, the specific arrangement that is you, is unique. There has never been anyone exactly like you before, and there will never be anyone exactly like you again. You are a temporary pattern in the flow of matter and energy through time, a brief but precious arrangement of elements that will eventually dissolve and reform into other patterns, other lives, other forms. But for now, you are here, you are you, and that is miraculous. And while you are here, your body is doing extraordinary things without your conscious awareness. Your heart is beating approximately 100,000 times per day, pumping 2,000 gallons of blood through 60,000 miles of blood vessels. Your bone marrow is producing 2 million red blood cells every second to replace the ones that wear out. Your immune system is identifying and destroying thousands of potentially harmful bacteria and viruses every day. Your brain is processing billions of bits of sensory information, filtering out the irrelevant, highlighting the important, creating your experience of reality moment by moment. All of this happens automatically, guided by instructions written in your DNA over billions of years of evolution, refined through countless generations, perfected through trial and error, proven reliable through the simple fact that you're here, alive, descended from an unbroken line of survivors. You don't have to manage any of this. You don't have to remember to beat your heart or regulate your temperature or digest your food. Your body knows what to do. It has always known. And right now, as you rest, it's doing the work of repair and renewal, replacing damaged cells, consolidating memories, clearing toxins, rebalancing systems that were stressed during the day. Sleep is when your body does some of its most important work, and the best thing you can do is simply allow it, trust it, let go of conscious control and surrender to the ancient wisdom of your biology. Your body is brilliant. It has figured out how to exist in a constantly changing environment, how to maintain stable internal conditions despite external chaos, how to heal itself, how to adapt, how to endure. It is the product of 4 billion years of problem solving, 4 billion years of life learning how to stay alive. Trust it. It knows the way. In forests around the world, there are relationships so old and so intimate that neither partner can survive without the other. Lichens, those crusty or leafy growths on rocks and tree bark, are not single organisms at all but partnerships between fungi and algae or cyanobacteria, living so closely together that they appear to be one thing. The fungus provides structure and protection, gathering water and minerals from the environment. The algae or bacteria photosynthesize, producing food that feeds both partners. Together, they can survive in the harshest environments, on bare rock in the Arctic, in scorching deserts, even on gravestones and concrete walls. Separately, neither could exist in these places. Together, they thrive. Lichens grow incredibly slowly, sometimes less than a millimeter per year, but they can live for thousands of years. Some Antarctic lichens are estimated to be 5,000 years old, having grown continuously since before the pyramids were built, through ice ages and warm periods, through the entire span of human civilization, patient and persistent and unbothered by time. They ask for almost nothing, just bare rock, a little moisture, and light, and in return, they slowly break down the rock, creating the first soil where other plants can eventually grow. Lichens are pioneers, preparing the way for forests that won't exist for centuries, doing work whose fruits they'll never see, giving without expectation of return. This kind of selfless contribution is everywhere in nature. Salmon, as we mentioned earlier, migrate from the ocean to mountain streams, carrying ocean nutrients far inland. When they spawn and die, their bodies release nitrogen and other elements into the stream ecosystem, which are absorbed by plants, eaten by insects, and ultimately taken up by trees. Scientists have found nitrogen from salmon bodies in trees hundreds of feet from streams, incorporated into growth rings, proof that the forest depends on the ocean, that ecosystems hundreds of miles apart are connected through the journeys of fish who never intended to feed trees but do so anyway, through the simple act of completing their life cycle. Similarly, wildfires, which seem so destructive, play an essential role in many ecosystems. Some pine cones won't even open to release their seeds unless exposed to the intense heat of fire. Certain grasslands and chaparral ecosystems depend on periodic fires to clear dead material, return nutrients to the soil, and stimulate new growth. Native peoples understood this and used controlled burns for thousands of years to maintain healthy landscapes. Fire, when it occurs naturally in its proper rhythm, is not destruction, it's renewal, a reset button that clears the old to make way for the new, part of the cycle of growth and decay and growth again. Even death itself serves life. When a large animal dies in the forest, it becomes a feast for scavengers, vultures, ravens, coyotes, bears, who strip the flesh. What they leave behind is consumed by beetles, flies, and other insects. The bones are gnawed by rodents seeking calcium. The remaining material is broken down by bacteria and fungi, returning nutrients to the soil. Within a year, a deer carcass can be completely absorbed back into the ecosystem, every atom recycled, nothing wasted, everything returned to circulation. Death feeds life, always. The circle is never broken. Indigenous peoples around the world have understood this for millennia. Many traditional cultures practice Thanksgiving ceremonies for animals they hunt, honoring the life that was given to sustain their own, recognizing the reciprocity inherent in existence. Take, but give thanks. Receive, but acknowledge the gift. Use what you need, but waste nothing. These aren't just spiritual principles, they're ecological truths, descriptions of how healthy systems actually function. Modern industrial society has sometimes forgotten this, taking without thanks, using without restraint, breaking cycles that took billions of years to establish. But the earth remembers. The patterns still exist. They can be restored. And restoration is happening. In many parts of the world, forests are regrowing, wildlife populations are recovering, polluted rivers are running clear again. Wolves reintroduced to Yellowstone in 1995 changed the behavior of deer, which changed the growth patterns of trees, which stabilized riverbanks, which changed the flow of rivers, a cascade of effects from the return of a single predator. Humpback whale populations, hunted nearly to extinction, have rebounded dramatically since commercial whaling ended, their numbers growing from just a few thousand to tens of thousands. Sea otter populations along the Pacific coast are recovering, and with them, the kelp forests they protect by eating sea urchins. Life is resilient. Given half a chance, it comes back. Even in the most damaged landscapes, life finds footholds. Chernobyl, site of the worst nuclear disaster in history, has become an unexpected wildlife refuge. With humans gone, the exclusion zone is filled with wolves, bears, lynx, bison, and hundreds of bird species. The radiation is still there, still harmful, but the absence of human activity has apparently been a greater boon to wildlife than radiation is a detriment. Life adapts. Life persists. Life finds ways to continue even in places we've rendered toxic. Plants have grown in the cracks of ancient temples, their roots slowly prying apart stones that were laid by long-dead civilizations. Trees have reclaimed buildings in abandoned cities, their branches reaching through windows, their trunks rising through roofs. Nature doesn't seek revenge or hold grudges, it simply continues, growing wherever it can, turning concrete and steel back into soil and forest, patient as always, moving in the slow rhythm of seasons and centuries, unstoppable in its quiet persistence. You have this same resilience within you. Your ancestors survived ice ages, droughts, famines, plagues, wars, and countless personal hardships. Every challenge they faced, they overcame, or at least endured long enough to pass life on to the next generation. That endurance lives in you. That strength is yours, inherited, proven through millions of years of survival. Whatever you're facing, you have the capacity to meet it, to adapt to it, to continue despite it. Not because you're special, but because you're alive, and life has always found a way. Rest now in that knowledge. Let it support you. You are built for this. You are made for endurance. And tomorrow, when you wake, you will continue, as life has always continued, one breath, one heartbeat, one moment at a time. In the mountains of the world, there are trees that grow at the very edge of possibility, the tree line, where altitude and cold make further growth impossible. These trees are twisted and stunted by constant wind, shaped by ice and snow, barely clinging to life in thin soil between rocks. They grow perhaps an inch in a decade, adding one narrow ring each year to trunks no thicker than your arm, though they may be hundreds of years old. They are called krummholz, German for crooked wood, and they mark the boundary between the world of trees and the world of stone and ice above. Yet even here, even in these harshest conditions, they persist. They don't grow tall, but they grow. They don't flourish, but they endure. They define success not by thriving but by simply continuing to exist, by not giving up, by holding their ground year after year, decade after decade, century after century. There is wisdom in this. Not every moment of life is about growth or achievement. Sometimes success is simply endurance. Sometimes the victory is in lasting through the difficult season, in holding on when the wind is fierce, in trusting that conditions will eventually improve even if you can't see evidence of it yet. The krummholz trees don't know that spring will come, they have no capacity for hope or faith, but they're built to wait anyway, to survive the winter, to be ready when warmth returns. And it always does. Seasons change. They always have. They always will. Below the tree line, in the valleys and lower slopes, life is easier, more abundant. But the forests there depend on the mountains in ways both obvious and subtle. Mountains capture moisture from passing clouds, wringing rain and snow from the air, feeding springs and streams that flow down to nourish everything below. Mountains create rain shadows and microclimates, zones of different temperature and precipitation that allow different species to exist in close proximity, creating biological diversity. Mountains serve as refuges during climate shifts. When lowlands grow too hot, species can migrate upslope to find cooler temperatures, and when ice ages come, they can descend to warmer elevations. Mountains have enabled species to survive climate changes that would have otherwise driven them extinct. And mountains are ancient. The Appalachian Mountains in eastern North America are among the oldest on Earth, having formed roughly 480 million years ago when continents collided. They were once as tall as the Himalayas are today, but hundreds of millions of years of erosion have worn them down to gentle, rolling peaks covered in forest. The rocks at their summits contain fossils of marine creatures from the ancient ocean that once separated the continents, trilobites and brachiopods and other life forms preserved in stone, lifted thousands of feet into the air by the slow collision of tectonic plates, then gradually revealed as softer rocks eroded away. When you hike in these mountains, you're walking on what was once ocean floor, stepping over fossils of creatures that swam in seas that no longer exist, touching deep time made visible. The Himalayas, by contrast, are young, only about 50 million years old, formed when India crashed into Asia in a collision that continues today, pushing the mountains a few centimeters higher each year. Mount Everest, the highest point on Earth's surface at 29,032 feet, is still growing, still rising, lifted by the inexorable movement of continents on their journey across the planet's surface. The rocks at Everest's summit contain marine fossils too, limestone formed from the shells of sea creatures that lived in the Tethys Ocean, now gone, its floor thrust skyward to become the roof of the world. This is the pace at which the Earth works, centimeters per year, millimeters per year, building mountains over millions of years, wearing them down over hundreds of millions of years. Human lives are too short to perceive this movement directly, but it's happening, always, the planet constantly reshaping itself, continents drifting, mountains rising and falling, the face of the Earth never static, always changing, though so slowly that it appears eternal to our brief perspective. And in this slow dance of stone, life has learned to exist almost everywhere. Pikas, small rabbit-like mammals, live among the rocks high in mountain ranges, gathering vegetation in summer and storing it in hay piles to sustain them through winter. Mountain goats scale cliffs that seem impossible, their hooves designed to grip the smallest ledges, comfortable on slopes that would terrify most creatures. Snow leopards hunt in high Himalayan ranges where oxygen is thin and temperatures plunge far below freezing. Alpine plants bloom briefly in tiny patches of soil, taking advantage of the short growing season, their flowers often disproportionately large and vibrant compared to their small leaves and stems, attracting what few pollinators venture to these heights. Each of these species has specialized, adapting to conditions that most life finds intolerable, filling niches that would otherwise remain empty. This is one of the great patterns of evolution, life expanding into every available space, adapting to every possible condition, refusing to leave any resource unexploited, any habitat unoccupied. Where there is even the smallest opportunity for existence, life will eventually find it, will shape itself to fit it, will make a home there and call it enough. This is both humbling and encouraging. If life can persist on the highest peaks and in the deepest ocean trenches, in boiling springs and frozen tundra, in complete darkness and under crushing pressure, then surely you can persist through your own challenges, your own difficult seasons, your own moments of feeling stretched to your limits. You are made of the same materials, animated by the same fundamental processes, descended from the same lineages of survival. The capacity for endurance is built into you at the molecular level, written into your DNA by billions of years of ancestors who faced the impossible and continued anyway. So breathe. Rest. Trust that you, too, are built for this, whatever this may be. The mountains don't worry whether they can endure the next storm, they simply do. The alpine flowers don't question whether they can bloom in harsh conditions, they simply do. And you, too, can simply continue, one moment at a time, trusting the wisdom of your body, the resilience of your spirit, the accumulated strength of every life that came before you and learned how to persist, how to adapt, how to survive. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the world is suspended between darkness and light, there is a moment of perfect stillness. The night creatures are settling down to rest. The day creatures have not yet awakened. The wind often calms. Even the birds pause before beginning their chorus. In this moment, the earth seems to hold its breath, and if you're awake to witness it, you can feel yourself held in that same suspension, part of the universal pause between the inhale and exhale of the day. This liminal time, this threshold between states, has always held a special quality. Many animals are crepuscular, most active during dawn and dusk, these in-between times when predators and prey experience a shift change, when light levels create both opportunity and vulnerability. Deer emerge from forests to graze in meadows. Bats return from their night's hunting. Owls make their final passes before roosting. These transition times are when the world rearranges itself, when diurnal and nocturnal creatures briefly share the same moments, when the boundaries blur and everything feels possible. Ancient humans likely paid close attention to these times, knowing that dawn and dusk were when animals came to water sources, when hunting might be most productive, when the quality of light made the world seem different, more alive, more charged with meaning. Many spiritual traditions still honor these times with prayer or meditation, recognizing something sacred in the transitions, something worth marking, worth pausing for, worth experiencing fully rather than rushing through. And there are other thresholds in nature, other boundary places that hold special power. The edge between forest and meadow, called an ecotone, supports more species than either habitat alone, trees from the forest, grasses from the meadow, and species that need both, that hunt in one and nest in the other, that move between worlds. The intertidal zone, where ocean meets land, is uncovered twice daily by the retreating tide, exposing creatures to air and sun before covering them again with water. It's a harsh environment, constantly changing, yet it teems with life, barnacles that close their shells to trap water, sea stars that cling to rocks, anemones that retract their tentacles, mussels that seal themselves shut. These creatures live between worlds, belonging fully to neither, adapted specifically to the interface, to the boundary, to the place where different realms meet. You, too, exist at boundaries. You are matter, yet conscious. You are animal, yet self-aware. You are part of nature, yet capable of reflecting on nature. You exist at the threshold between the physical and the mental, between the automatic processes of your body and the conscious experiences of your mind. This makes you neither fully one thing nor another, but something unique, a boundary creature, capable of experiencing both the instinctive and the reflective, the immediate and the contemplated. And in this moment, as you rest, you exist at another threshold, between waking and sleeping, between consciousness and unconsciousness, between the world of thoughts and the world of dreams. This is called the hypnagogic state, that drifting sensation as you fall asleep, when thoughts become less linear, when images arise unbidden, when the boundaries of self become fuzzy and fluid. It's a creative state. Many artists, writers, and scientists have found inspiration in these borderlands of consciousness, keeping notebooks by their beds to capture the strange insights that emerge when the rational mind relaxes its grip. Salvador Dali would hold a key above a metal plate as he drifted towards sleep, knowing that when he fully fell asleep, the key would drop and the sound would wake him, allowing him to capture the surreal images from that threshold state. Thomas Edison did something similar with ball bearings. They understood that this boundary state held something valuable, something that couldn't be accessed by either full wakefulness or deep sleep, but only in the crossing between them. Your mind is doing important work in this state, processing the day's experiences, integrating new information with old, finding patterns, making connections, consolidating memories. The boundary between sleep and waking is where your brain sorts what to keep and what to discard, what matters and what doesn't, reorganizing itself for the next day. Trust this process. It has been refined over hundreds of millions of years of brain evolution. It knows what it's doing. As you drift, you might notice your body twitch, sudden jerks of arms or legs, called hypnic jerks or sleep starts. No one knows exactly why this happens, but one theory is that it's a remnant from our arboreal ancestors, primates sleeping in trees, the brain's final check to make sure you're securely positioned before fully releasing into sleep. Even now, millions of years after our ancestors left the trees, the old programming remains, a ghost of ancient habits, the brain ensuring you won't fall as you let go of consciousness. It's protective, this twitch, a last gesture of care before surrendering to rest. And then, gradually, you slip across the boundary. Theta waves begin to dominate your brain activity, slower than waking beta waves but not yet the deep delta waves of profound sleep. You enter stage 1, the lightest sleep, still easily awakened, still aware of your surroundings in a vague way. Then stage 2, where you spend about half of your total sleep time, your body temperature dropping, your heart rate slowing, your muscles relaxing completely. This is restorative sleep, healing sleep, the foundation of rest. And if you're fortunate, you'll descend deeper still into stage 3, slow wave sleep, where delta waves roll through your brain like gentle ocean swells, where your body releases growth hormones to repair tissues and build bone and muscle, where your immune system strengthens itself, where the glymphatic system, the brain's waste removal system, works most efficiently, flushing out proteins and metabolites that accumulated during the day. This is the deepest rest, the most rejuvenating, the sleep that leaves you feeling truly refreshed. Let yourself sink into these depths. Let the boundaries dissolve. Let the threshold be crossed. You are safe. The world will continue without your vigilance. The earth will keep turning. The sun will rise. Life will go on doing what life does, adapting, persisting, renewing itself. And you will be part of that renewal, resting now, restoring now, preparing now for whatever tomorrow brings. While you rest, dreams may come. Dreams are among the most mysterious aspects of consciousness, experiences that feel completely real while they're happening yet dissolve like mist when you wake. Every mammal appears to dream. Dogs twitch and whimper in their sleep, their paws moving as if running. Cats' whiskers quiver as they dream of hunting. Even animals as different from us as birds experience something like REM sleep, their brain patterns showing activities similar to dreaming. Some scientists believe that birds may dream of their songs, replaying and practicing the complex melodies they sing while awake, perfecting them in sleep. This suggests that dreams serve a purpose, that they're not random noise but meaningful processing. In dreams, your brain can rehearse scenarios, work through problems, practice responses to threats, consolidate skills you learned during the day. Studies have shown that people learning a new physical skill improve more if they sleep between practice sessions than if they stay awake. The brain is literally practicing in sleep, strengthening the neural pathways, making the movements more automatic. You learn while you dream. You grow while you rest. Dreams also seem to help with emotional processing. The things that troubled you during the day often appear in dreams, but transformed, symbolic, viewed from different angles. Your dreaming mind takes the raw emotional experiences of waking life and integrates them into your broader understanding, finding patterns, making connections, sometimes offering solutions that your conscious mind couldn't see. The phrase "sleep on it" contains ancient wisdom. Problems that seem insurmountable before sleep often feel more manageable after, not because they've changed, but because your dreaming mind has worked on them, has found new perspectives, has reduced their emotional charge. In REM sleep, when most vivid dreams occur, your eyes move rapidly beneath closed lids, as if watching the dream unfold. Your brain becomes almost as active as when you're awake, yet your muscles are paralyzed, a protective mechanism that prevents you from acting out your dreams. This temporary paralysis, called REM-atonia, is why you sometimes dream of trying to run but moving in slow motion, or trying to shout but producing no sound. Your dreaming mind commands movement, but your body wisely refuses to comply, keeping you safe, keeping you still, allowing the dream to remain purely mental. And what strange dreams they can be. You might fly without wings, breathe underwater, visit places that don't exist, speak with people long dead, become someone else entirely. The normal rules don't apply. Time flows differently. Logic bends. Impossibilities become mundane. Yet while you're dreaming, none of this seems strange. The dreaming mind accepts whatever it experiences, no matter how bizarre, as simply reality. It's only upon waking that you recognize the dream for what it was, a different kind of consciousness, a different way of experiencing existence, valid in its own realm even if it makes no sense in this one. Indigenous cultures around the world have honored dreams as sources of wisdom, guidance, and connection to the spiritual realm. Australian Aboriginal peoples speak of the dream time, a timeless state where ancestral beings created the world and where all things remain connected. Many Native American traditions include vision quests, periods of fasting and isolation designed to induce powerful dreams that provide direction and meaning. Modern psychology, too, has recognized that dreams offer insights into the unconscious mind, revealing desires, fears, and patterns that conscious thought might suppress or ignore. Perhaps dreams are where we process not just individual experiences but collective ones, the accumulated patterns of human existence, the archetypal situations that all people face, the universal themes of love and loss, danger and safety, connection and isolation. Carl Jung believed that dreams drew not just from personal memory but from a collective unconscious, shared patterns inherited from our ancestors, symbols and stories that appear across cultures because they reflect fundamental aspects of being human. Whether or not this is literally true, dreams do seem to tap into something deeper than immediate experience, something ancient and universal, themes that resonate across time and culture. As you dream tonight, know that you're participating in something every sleeping creature shares. Somewhere right now, a cat is dreaming of stalking prey. A dog is dreaming of running through fields. A dolphin is dreaming, scientists believe, of swimming and playing, one hemisphere of its brain asleep and dreaming while the other remains awake to breathe. Birds are dreaming of flight and song. And humans across the globe are dreaming their own dreams, some pleasant, some disturbing, some strange, some profound, each mind creating its own private world, its own temporary reality, its own way of processing existence. You are not alone, even in your dreams. You are part of the community of dreamers, part of the nightly migration of consciousness into inner worlds, part of the ancient practice of letting go of the waking self to discover what else might be there, waiting in the darkness, ready to teach you something your conscious mind couldn't learn alone. So dream now, if dreams come. Let them unfold without judgment or analysis. Let your mind wander where it needs to go, trust that it knows what it's doing, that this strange process serves purposes older than language, older than human civilization, older than our species itself. Dreams are part of being alive, part of having a brain, part of the gift of consciousness. Receive them with gratitude, with curiosity, with the same acceptance you would give any other natural phenomenon, rain, wind, the turning of seasons. They are weather of the mind, passing through, leaving their own kind of nourishment, and then moving on. And if no dreams come, or if you don't remember them, that's fine too. The work is still happening, deep in your sleeping brain, whether you're aware of it or not. Rest is rest, whether wrapped in dreams or held in darkness. Both are healing. Both are necessary. Both are gifts. As this journey through time comes to a close, let yourself rest in the profound simplicity of this moment. You are here. You are breathing. You are part of an unbroken chain of life that stretches back 4 billion years, and in this instant, you are the leading edge of that ancient story, the newest chapter in a narrative so vast it contains galaxies and so intimate it lives in every cell of your body. Consider what a gift it is simply to exist. Against odds that seem impossible, the universe arranged itself in such a way that stars could form and explode, scattering heavy elements into space. Against further impossible odds, a cloud of that enriched material collapsed to form our sun and planets. Against odds more impossible still, on one of those planets, chemistry became biology, molecules learned to replicate, life began. And then, through billions of years of gradual change, through mass extinctions and climate shifts, through mutations and adaptations and the patient work of natural selection, that first simple cell gave rise to all the diversity we see today, including you. You are made of impossibilities. You are made of star death and deep time and countless small moments when your ancestors chose to continue, chose to adapt, chose to survive one more day. Every breath you take is a victory over entropy, a temporary triumph of order over chaos, a brief but beautiful expression of the universe's capacity to organize itself into patterns that can feel and think in wonder. And yet, for all that cosmic grandeur, what matters most right now is simply this: you are tired, and it's time to rest. The story of life will continue without your attention. The earth will keep turning. The moon will continue its patient orbit. The tides will rise and fall. Plants will photosynthesize. Animals will hunt and eat and sleep and wake. The great cycles will continue, as they have for eons, as they will for eons more. You can let go now. You can release your grip on the day, on your worries, on your plans and fears and the endless mental narratives that occupy your waking hours. They'll still be there tomorrow if you need them, but right now, they're not required. Right now, the only thing you need to do is rest, And even that isn't something you need to do, it's something that will happen to you if you simply allow it, if you stop resisting, if you trust the ancient processes that know how to carry you from waking to sleeping without your conscious effort. Your ancestors slept under stars that are still burning. They rested in caves and shelters, in forests and grasslands, on every continent, through every epoch, and they trusted that morning would come, and it always did. That same trust is available to you now. Morning will come. The sun will rise. Life will continue. And you will wake, restored, ready to participate once more in the great adventure of being alive. But that is tomorrow's concern. Tonight, there is only this: the softness of where you lie, the rhythm of your breathing, the gentle slowing of your thoughts, the gradual release of tension from your muscles, the sweet descent into sleep that your body knows how to make even if your mind tries to interfere. Let your mind be still. Let it become like a calm pond, reflecting the sky without disturbance, clear and quiet and at peace. Let your thoughts settle like silt to the bottom, leaving the water clear. Let yourself sink into that clarity, that stillness, that profound and ancient quiet that underlies all existence, that was here before the first word was spoken and will remain after the last one fades. You are held by the earth, cradled by gravity, warmed by the energy of a star, protected by an atmosphere that has been built by billions of years of life breathing and photosynthesizing and creating the very air that sustains you. You are supported by systems within systems, by cycles within cycles, by patterns so vast and so intricate that no mind can fully comprehend them, but that require nothing from you except your presence, your participation, your simple existence. And in this moment, your existence is enough. You don't need to prove anything or accomplish anything or become anything other than what you already are, a living being, resting, breathing, held safely in the embrace of a living world. So rest now, completely. Let sleep come as gently as dusk settling over a quiet forest. Let it arrive in its own time, without forcing, without anxiety, as natural as leaves falling in autumn, as inevitable as the tide returning to shore, as certain as the earth continuing its ancient rotation through the darkness of space, carrying you with it, carrying all of us with it, on this shared journey through time. You are part of everything. Everything is part of you. And all of it, all of this vast and beautiful web of existence, is telling you the same thing in this moment: rest. Sleep. Let go. You are safe. You are held. You are exactly where you need to be. Good night.